Alright, so here we go again. Sir Michael Rivera at Read On. I have a lot to say about this book, but I will keep it short. Driven from Within by Michael Jordan. Don't really have to introduce Michael Jordan. I'm pretty sure most of you guys already know who he is. Um, been one of his biggest fans since the second three-peat. I was still too young for the first three-peat, but during the second time around, I definitely was paying attention. Okay, so this is really his memoirs, which I like, and there's a lot of great photographs in this book. You know, photographs of Jordan. Like this one, for example, of younger Michael Jordan. Uh, oh, how do I do this? Okay, next to his Mercedes there. So it's really more than anything a photo autobiography. However, my problem with this book is that it was kind of intertwined with the story of his evolution at Nike and with a lot of the production at Air Jordan with the Jordan tennis shoe line. I think that I don't quite know how many shoes the Jordans have done. I think they've definitely done 20, but probably even more. But the story is not only the story of Jordan, it's also the story, as I said, of the evolution of the Jordan sneaker line. I wasn't really too interested in the Jordan sneaker line. I think that really I've only owned one pair of Jordans. I really don't wear sneakers anymore. Um, and I know that they cause a sensation. When they used to come out, people would stand out in lines and basically camp outside and buy these shoes. And I remember that not long ago, they came out with I don't know if it was a revamped Jordan shoe, but there was a lot of outcry because they just kind of threw it on the people. And as soon as they came out, people were rioting outside stores and beating each other up for these shoes and then posting them on eBay for about $2,000, $3,000, which I think is kind of funny. Well, the people would spend that money on them. But it's I liked it, but like I said, too much about the shoe stuff. I would have preferred less. I would have just preferred a regular memoir, about his life and kind of about his psychology, about his creed. Um, Another thing I kind of didn't like about this book is that it really focused more on the first three-peat rather than the second three-peat. Actually, there's hardly a blurb about the second three-peat. It just kind of goes right through them as if they never happened. And even though that was the three-peat that I'm familiar with, I did want to reread about that. I did want to kind of revisit that era because it was exciting. I mean, the playoff finals against Karl Malone and the Utah Jazz, that last final shot that he made against Brian Russell, you know, Bob Costa saying that if this is the last shot of his career, my goodness, what a shot. Of course, it wasn't because he then came back to play with the Washington Wizards. And actually, regarding that, his coming back, he really portrays that decision as not really for the sake of the game, not really for the love of the game. You hear these athletes say this all the time. They come back for love of the game, like Brett Favre. But um, really, with Jordan, the whole thing was he knew he was going to become a general manager, and he wanted to kind of get a sense of these players, of how they train, of whether or not they were punctual, of of their behavior amongst each other as well. So it really what he wanted was he wanted a behind the scenes peek. He wanted to know everything. And this is how Jordan is. He must be excellent at everything he does, whether it's baseball, golf, basketball, or general management. So he really wanted a glimpse both from the inside and the out about how these guys did what they did before he became a general manager. So he definitely wanted to play again, but he kind of realized that look, this time around, It's very unlikely that I'm going to make the finals. Very unlikely that I'm going to, bring this team from oblivion to one of the greatest franchises in the NBA. It was not really that. It was I need to learn this business from the inside and the out. So, Driven from Within, it's a good book. If you're a Jordan fan, you should definitely read it. But if you're not a fan of his sneakers, you will be a little disappointed because there's definitely a lot on the sneakers. You know, um, but other than that, keep staying tuned and read on with Sir Michael Rivera.